Hello and welcome to the 42's Rugby Show, the final one of a phenomenal season, capped this morning by an historic series win in Australia. A 20 points to 16 victory for Ireland in Sydney seals a 2-1 series win. We're joined on the line from the Allianz Stadium by Murray Kinsella. Murray, have you just about recovered from that frantic test match?
Yeah, I've just come up for the post-match kind of press conference stuff. Everyone's still reeling a little bit, hasn't quite sunk in for some of the Irish players, but understandably a lot of pride. I think they're going to go have a pretty good night now, and even Joe Schmidt said he might not get stuck into his review for a couple of days, so good to see the Irish are going to get stuck in and enjoy it. But what a way to end the series. Brilliant test series. You'd almost love it went to 5 games. I don't know if the players could have given us any more though, and it came right down to the end. It was so dramatic. Tough match report to write because you're scrambling until the very last second there, but yeah, outstanding game and a really fantastic way to end the season for Ireland.
Yeah, I think obviously the dust is kind of beginning to settle on it now, but I think one of the big words that's coming out of it is character. You know, Ireland's big players stood up in the big moments, and that's essentially what got them over the line, because they were under the pump for large parts of that second half in particular.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at Johnny Sexton, he takes a massive hit from Karevi, and a couple of minutes later he's up slotting that penalty that just gives them the 4-point separation that forces Australia to have to go for that try, rather than the penalty which they kind of had gone after relatively recently before that. You look at guys like Tyg Byrne coming off the bench in his second cap, adding a little bit of energy and kind of stepping up to the plate with a big carry when Ireland just seemed to be lagging in that department. Jordan Larmour, you're talking about character. There's a guy who saunters onto the pitch at fullback, in what is essentially still his breakthrough season, and is a really solid performance. Guys like CJ Sander, Jack Conan delivering massive tackles in the final passage as well. It was all about character. Ireland did look to flag a little bit around the 60-minute mark. You kind of feared if the Wallabies can really be accurate and get that pass to stick here, Ireland are there for the taking. But even the break that Karevi makes through Sexton, Conor Murray's tracking back to make that tackle, and then they get good defensive line speed on the next phase, and it's a poor pass from Joe Powell to Bernard Foley to miss another chance. So there were loads of little moments like that, but in a performance that wasn't quite perfect from Ireland. Yeah, I think you mentioned it, their character and just resilience, which we've seen throughout the course of what has been an unbelievable season for them. And it came to the fore definitely again tonight. Yeah,
I know you haven't seen a conclusive replay, but that kind of final play when the ball went into touch, obviously the referee decided to have a look at it in the TMO. Can you kind of describe what it was like in the stadium? Obviously at home we could see the replays and the kind of the communication between the TMO and ref, but it was a nail-biting end to a thrilling test match.
Yeah, well, it was pretty divided in the stadium. Certainly the Wallabies fans were booing after they felt it was a clear kind of knock-on from Stockdale. I can see why you would think that. The ball just kind of changed direction slightly, but that probably happens coming out of the hands of Bernard Foley as he's under pressure to pass. The TMO said it wasn't conclusive. I don't think anyone can conclusively say that there was either a knock-on or definitely not. It was very fine margins, and that's what it came down to. There were so many little moments like that. You could argue over the yellow cards as well, either way, I think, and certainly people seem to be, certainly judging by my Twitter feed, it's very divisive, certainly on a couple of those big decisions from the referees. But I do think Ireland were worth their series success. They responded to that physical challenge that was laid down by the Wallabies the first day, and responded really well. They've been accurate since then. It was a kind of uncharacteristically sloppy performance probably in the first test, with kind of handling errors and missing breakdowns. And that's always going to be the case when a guy like David Pocock is around. We saw it again tonight. 2 turnovers in 2 minutes at one stage. One of them probably a little bit dubious, but he's always in that fight. And they have freakish players like Israel Folau. On those restarts, I know he ended up getting a yellow card for one of them, but he was such a threat again and certainly came into the game a lot more. But I think Ireland are further down the line than this Wallabies team, and we saw that just in the cohesion they had at key moments. You look at that Maul try, and they'd be dragged down the one before and probably felt they should have had a penalty try there, but they just get back together, throw to the tail, really good throw, and really accurate Maul just to get over the line and standard touches down. So those key moments, I felt Ireland had that composure and that nice cohesion to their team.
Yeah, I know you've just come out of the press conferences with Joe Schmidt and Michael Cheika. What did Conor Schmidt have to say? Because thankfully the result went Ireland's way, and there won't be too much talk about the their delayed arrival with the bus being late. But what was kind of Schmidt's overriding emotion after the game? Because on Sky Sports certainly there seems to be a bit of emotion in the way he was speaking, and he went through all the backroom staff thanking them for their individual efforts throughout the course of the season. So what was he kind of saying post-match?
Yeah, well, he had the exact timings on the bus and the delay down to a T, an extra 13 minutes or so. He said he's usually pretty accurate with his comments, even when he adds in that or so. But no, he's pleased with that character. You know, there's so many things that he can pick out, and probably will when they get into review next time they're in camp in August, for them to improve on, even how they kind of bounce back from moments where they had a chance to relieve the pressure. He spoke about that one where Conor Murray gets on the ball after being ahead of Jacob Stockdale, and how they can manage those little moments. But really, he's got to look at this team and see a lot of upside, a lot of further opportunity to actually improve, even though they've achieved so much this season. I think that will be the ambition of this group, especially when you've got young guys like James Ryan and Dan Levy to come back in, and you've also got a group of players like Sean O'Brien, Rhys Ruddock, Josh van der Fleer, who weren't involved at all, and are now back in pre-season with Leinster and kind of eager to get their chance. So Schmidt is certainly very positive about what's to come. He's already talking about November there, you know, that first game against Italy in Chicago, and the opportunity there. But I think in his mind, the World Cup, even though he won't talk about it, will certainly be looming. And with that in mind, this series has been really important. They've come down to Southern Hemisphere, first time since 1979 here, obviously. And also they've got into this kind of cup final situation, which they spoke about, and they've come out the other side despite being on the ropes a little bit at times. So he's definitely very positive, and certainly I think he'll take a bit of pride in this achievement.
Yeah, before we let you go, Murray, because I know they're closing up the stadium behind you. It's actually been demolished, isn't it, in October? So I think if you stay there any longer, you could be part of that. But just before we let you go, just you mentioned World Cup there and the stepping stone. This was a hugely significant series in that sense. Bit of squad rotation throughout the series from Schmidt. So he got a closer look at a couple of different players, and building on, obviously, phenomenal season. You know, it's good things, really positive, you know, groundwork now heading into November. Yeah,
they're in a really positive place. There's been good squad development on this tour. Joey Carberry obviously got game time. Ty Byrne is now a real squad option, showing that he's capable at this level. Larmour has more experience. And then there's other guys, we've mentioned a couple of the more experienced guys to come in there. There's guys like Will Addison coming over to Ulster, who was in camp in Melbourne. Dave Kilcoyne was in for a day as well. He'll push for that loose head spot as well again. And there's loads of reasons to be positive about a squad that will keep a lot of those kind of core key players like Sexton and Murray all the way through, as well as adding maybe a couple more elements, or getting certainly a bit more experience in a couple of positions. I think the concern really still is the 9 position, and behind Conor Murray, obviously you've got the best scrum half arguably in the world there, but the gap is pretty big behind him, and there's no real clear pecking order. He's moved between a couple of guys. Marmion would probably be the number 2 at the moment, but I think there needs to be a little bit more international experience in that depth chart, and that's certainly a challenge for Schmidt maybe in November to get a start there. You know, he wasn't going to leave Murray out of this final decisive test. If they'd been 2-0 up, 2-0 down, he said, probably would have changed something there and given someone a chance, but that probably for him is a challenge, and just adding to guys like Ty Byrne and giving them more exposure and more experience to add a bit of that experience going into a World Cup, which is absolutely huge. But they're certainly in a very strong position. What a season for Irish rugby, and it's exciting to think after a couple of weeks break for the players what they can go on and achieve in the future.
Yeah, some season, as you said, have been able to kind of pick a highlight. I know it's only the dust is beginning to settle on it, but kind of can you look back yet and kind of pick out a big moment or a big highlight from yourself personally?
Yeah, I think the most enjoyable Irish performance of the season was probably in Twickenham. They saved the best for last in that Grand Slam. I thought it was a really dominant performance against an English team that had been a dominant force really for the 25 tests or whatever before, when they were steamrolling everyone, and that's been a bit of a downturn from them. They haven't really recovered from that. I do think looking forward though, it'll be interesting to see where South Africa go in the next year, because you're looking at that as a potential quarter-final for Ireland in the World Cup. And England, I do think they have enough depth and quality to bounce back. Whether that's with Eddie Jones or not, we'll find out. But in terms of highlights, that Twickenham match was exceptional. But this series has been right up there. I think the quality of the rugby and just the entertainment factor has been exceptional. Both teams have really tried to play a lot of rugby, and it's been a great way to end a brilliant season.
Yeah, absolutely. Murray, safe home anyway. We'll catch you soon.
Thanks very much, Ryan.
Thanks for joining us as always. And thank you for joining us throughout the course of the season. It's been some season. We hope you've enjoyed our coverage here on the 42. And until next time, goodbye.